And just all this just being hit in the head, like quite a bit, makes me concerned. Recently I went in to have my brain scanned at a place called Peak Brain Institute, and they did all this stuff. And their professional opinion was that my brain was far less damaged than they'd imagined it would be. And that more than the injury, residual injury to my brain, what stood out to them was long-term drug and alcohol abuse.
I make this video in the context of the year 2020, when I'm hearing a great deal of earnest and agonizing reflection from African Americans, asking themselves, asking one another on the internet, here on YouTube, why do we look up to the celebrities that we choose to put on this pedestal? Why do we have respect for athletes, rappers, actors, often enough people with criminal records, with a lot of experience with drug use, drug addiction, often enough drug dealing? But it always seems so strange to me that they're not just looking at the other side of the coin, which is that white people in the United States of America worship drug dealers, worship drug addicts, even within the subculture of vegan and animal rights activism. White people worship criminals. White people worship imbeciles and fools, and I don't even see white people within, Western American, Western European culture. I don't even see them making excuses of these people, trying to convince themselves or others that they're brilliant or that they have some redeeming qualities that compensate for this background in terms of drug addiction and criminal behavior and so on. Steve-O, in this image you see on screen, seems to have a tattoo on his knuckles promoting PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. That is in fact photoshopped. If you Google around, you will find out what he actually has on his knuckles. Like so many things about the interaction between Steve-O and PETA, this is a kind of fraud. This is a kind of image manipulation in every sense of the term. The evidence that Steve-O is not now vegan and never has been vegan is blatant. What you see on screen here is Steve-O cooking eggs. That much is obvious. It may not be so easy for you to see, but you can click through to the ingredients list. This recipe includes also chicken breast, mozzarella cheese, quite a few non-vegan ingredients above and beyond eggs. I know that some vegans say in a sort of over-the-top, emotionally anguished way that someone never really was vegan. They complain that a particular person was never deeply and profoundly vegan, were never truly committed to veganism ethically or psychologically or spiritually. That's not what we're talking about here. In the case of someone like Steve-O, I mean to suggest to you that in the simplest, most down-to-earth sense, he never was vegan. He was a drug addict with a public relations problem. He was famous and trying to be more famous. And he started promoting himself by promoting PETA. And PETA started promoting themselves by promoting him. Shout out to the authors at Live Kindly, who wrote a remarkably honest article about this. Live Kindly is not a hard-hitting or incisive source of information, but in this case, they took a step closer to real journalism, and I sympathize with the effort they made. They describe here that the current controversy about the extent to which Steve-O is now vegan or ever was vegan began because of statements he made on Twitter and Instagram. He makes excuses such as saying that he's not vegan because his cats aren't vegan. He sometimes suggests that he still has never eaten meat, only fish. You've just seen videotaped evidence. This is untrue. This is complete nonsense. And we don't have any evidence that he ever was someone who even made an effort to be truthful or earnest. What we do have evidence of is that he had this series of meetings with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, covered in this Live Kindly article, in which basically his role as a spokesperson for PETA was a brokered deal, was a mutually beneficial arrangement between the two. And you could estimate how much money it's worth, but I'd suggest to you that it was worth at least hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. When PETA came to film the circus spot at his apartment, he says he made a comment to Cho, worried that filming something for animals while sitting on his leather couch seemed hypocritical. He justified the couch to her, though, citing native cultures who honor entire animals. Yes, I'm sure if you visited the factory where that cow was carved up and turned into a couch, I'm sure they were sitting around and having a prayer circle in a tent full of smoke and graven idols that would completely morally exculpate your role in this, Steve-O. The leather couch comment is the same logic he's comfortable with now when it comes to eating fish. But, he says, back then he took his statement to Cho a step further. Quote, "But I don't eat mink, so that's why you'll never see me in fur," close quote. Cho's eyes lit up, Steve remembers, and she asked him right then if he would do an anti-fur spot for PETA. He agreed. From there, he went on to do a number of other PETA endorsements, including anti-dissection ads. That's the one with the frog and the fake tattoo being shown on his knuckles, endorsing campaigns and receiving awards from the organization. Endorsing PETA was a two-way street. In some ways, as much as he validated the group's work, the organization also validated Steve, who was railing against his drug addiction and starring on a show many didn't take seriously. And as he struggled with his sobriety, he found his ethical choices kept him grounded and helped him to honor his body that he's been so unkind to for so long. Look, guys, if you're choosing someone to be your hero, if you're choosing someone to be your idol, if you're choosing someone to be your political leader, is it too much to ask that you'd have some of the same skepticism, that you'd go through some of the same fact-checking procedures that you would apply to hiring a babysitter? If you're hiring someone to come in and live in your house and take care of your kids and maybe sometimes sleep on your couch overnight, would you care if you found this kind of material about Steve-O showing that he has serious long-term brain damage from a serious long-term drug habit?
You know, and just all this just being hit in the head, you know, like quite a bit, makes me concerned. Recently I went in to have my brain scanned at a place called Peak Brain Institute, and they did all this stuff. And their professional opinion was that my brain was far less damaged than they'd imagined it would be. And that more than the injury, residual injury to my brain, what stood out to them was long-term drug and alcohol abuse.